Hello Space Engineers, welcome back to Hephaestus Prime, Wellington 6012 here. How's everybody doing? Hope you're all good. Now, as promised, out for a fly today. Gonna find a base location, and then next episode we should be heading to that base location. So I've just come over the hills out the back of the trading post, just past the lake, and having a bit of a fly around here. Now what I'll do is we'll have a bit of a scope out, and then I'll head back in time to finish off the mapping stuff, to have a little bit of a look at the beast. There's a couple of things that kind of need doing or I want to do. One of those was the old hindsight thing of the timers, which I really actually need to change, so that's going to be a bit of a headache, but really just ultra fine detail stuff before we head off. Now how about we have a little bit of a look around where we are here. So I've just come across that saddle there and found this rather nice little valley here. Looks quite nice actually, nice and leafy. Big sheer cliff there above the lake, which I don't know exactly what I'm looking for, but I'll know when I find it. And this is looking quite promising actually. So what I would like to do is to have an entrance into a subterranean base. So I wasn't intending to use a lake bed, but I might end up using a lake bed because just having that flat surface can be quite useful. So yeah, it's hard to explain what I'm after. Probably more so actually that far side of the lake than this side. A few resources down there. We'll just have a little bit of a look, see what's there. Is my ore detector turned on? Now I think about it, I think I turned it off because it was getting in the way on the screen. Anyway, a little bit of iron there, that's quite useful. So yeah, it's got potential, this. Problem is, I don't think I can get the beast down here. It's, yeah, I don't think there's any ramps down. It's all looking pretty sheer cliff around the place. So that's going to have to be one of the things. I'm going to need to get the beast down here. Little resource patch there. Set up in a magnesium and nickel. So yeah, the entrance, I mean, like this corner of the lake in front of me would be an ideal spot, kind of hidden away in the shadows, maybe even up a bit of a canyon type access. It doesn't really reveal the extent of the networking system that's going to be underground, but like what is it, Cheyenne Mountain, which they used on Stargate, or Fallout, the Fallout, probably 3 rather than 4, where again those entrances don't really reveal the extent of what's in behind them. So that was a good first start. I don't think that's going to be suitable because I just cannot see the beast getting down to that lake bed, certainly not getting back out of it. We'll just have a little bit of a fly over this saddle and see what's there. Maybe I might even head up to the summit of this mountain because it is quite a good reference point. Sadly, the fly didn't quite make it up the top here. It's a little over its sort of flight ceiling. It can go above 5,000 meters, but the atmospheric thrusters are just really, they do struggle above that height. And I find that if I even just start a little bit of fall, it just doesn't stop, it just keeps going down until it eventually gets to a point where it can get a bit of grip on the air. So anyway, had to just jet back at the last little distance and we'll have a bit of a look-see. I think it's looking a bit rough over there, but certainly that lake down there is probably the next spot I need to go to. Now, I had a bit of a thought that I might mark this as a GPS sort of location as a point of reference, and we've got to think of names for these mountains. I'm not going to name every single one, but I think I will name a couple. Now, I thought that I could name them after historic engineers. So for this one, I think I will call it Mount Isambard, after, of course, Isambard Kingdom Brunel of railway fame in the UK, and he also did that steamer. I remember seeing a documentary on it, which I just forget the name of it. This big, massive, absolutely humongous steamer. I may need to Google that so it doesn't keep me awake at night while I try and remember, because it's right on the tip of my tongue. So Mount Isambard, I did think about Mount Brunel, but decided Isambard sounds better. I will come back at a later stage, take some aerial photography once I have a bit more high altitude capability, or I'll just come back and use my jetpack, also add it to the trig map. Now, speaking of maps, ran out of time in the last episode to go over the editing of the maps, knitting them together and loading them onto the LCDs. Might just take the opportunity now to go back in time and do that. Okay, so now I've got my reference points and bearings. I can chart them out to create a bit of a map of where everything is in relationship to each other. This also means that when I take photos, I can put them in the approximate location. I say approximate because the scale of the planet only being 60 kilometers wide, it does exaggerate any of the errors that I've made with angles and not being straight or lined up, that sort of thing. As an approximation, I'm sure it'll be fine. And then when I do get more photos, I'll probably just need to knit them together a bit more and manipulate them. The first place I visited was base camp and I got my bearings there. I forgot that I needed to align the photo to the north, so I did return there off camera, and while I was there, off to the west in the distance was a force field. It was right on the edge of the visibility. It was kind of when I twisted the camera away from it that when it was in the peripheral vision, it kind of showed up. So it's out there somewhere. I might have to go and visit that another day. I'd say it was a good 10 k's away, right on the edge of being able to see. Then I moved up to the magnesium drill site and got a few more bearings, and then across to High Peak, which then means I could close up my first triangle. I put the distances in there just to show you, but I don't actually need the distances. It's only really the angle that I'm interested in, although they do create quite a good cross-reference. From there, went across to the Valley Ramp and to Treasure Island. And then as I came back to the trading post, I came via the what I'm calling Green Crater and around to the lake where the beast is, and then back to the trading post. From there, I also put in a couple of waypoints between the trading post and High Peak, one at 2.5 k's and one at 5 k's, because I do need to calibrate the distance, so it needs to be a little bit accurate there. So those are the first photos that I've edited together and merged so I can get that 5k distance, and I've got them point to point. So it works out about 12% of the original size that I'm scaling these down to. So it makes it quite easy just for any remaining ones to scale down to the same size when I put them in, and then I just paste them in behind approximately where they need to be. Some of them I have to twist and merge a little bit, but yeah, they all sort of end up in the right place. Now that I have my base map, I can load them onto the screens. Now in the Beast, I've gone for 6 separate screens rather than the new big screens that are available as part of the Frostbite DLC. So the reason why I've gone for this is when I do eventually publish the Beast, it'll mean that anybody that wants to load up the screens can just use that Space Engineer's image to LCD program rather than mucking around with the textures and changing the config file. Essentially, it's almost a vanilla version, and I wanted to touch on it because I forgot earlier to talk about the splitting up onto multiple screens. All that said, I am loading up textures onto my ones, and eventually when I do a bigger command center in my permanent base, I probably will use the larger screens. The resolution for the image to LCD was 178 by 178, so timesing that by 2 high and 3 long will make it 534 by 356. Just adjusted the size to that and I'll save it as a PNG file. So that's a lot less resolution than the 1024 by 1536, I think. Yeah, the high resolution for the textures. So I've saved that and now I'll open it in the Space Engineers image to LCD. Just need to change the number of rows and columns in this box here, and then I will untick the RLE and convert that. And there we go. So chopped up already for several screens. You can see the image is a bit complex for having no dithering. So I'll just try it with a different pattern. And now you can see it's looking a little bit more like it should. So that's a better example than what I gave you earlier with the Hephaestus image of the dithering. But yeah, so now they can just be individually copied and loaded into the screens. But I'm not going to use that method because I have also saved these as DDS files in the larger resolution, and I'm going to load them onto the screens using the config file. So a quick reminder of how I do that. I drag my PNG files that are 512 by 512 resolution into an online converter and convert them into a DDS file and download that and save that somewhere safe. Then I go into the Steam folders and I'm looking for the data folder with the LCD textures configuration file. Now I need to copy this block of data. So starting off with the LCD texture definition and ending with a /LCD texture definition words. So that little block there. And just change all the file names and IDs. So there's 4 of them in each of the blocks. The IDs are how they appear in the list on the control panel, and then the file directory is the location where Space Engineers can find it on your local drive. So paying attention to those locations because we'll put the files into those folders next. So I'll copy this and paste it a few times, and I just need to change the numeric digit on the end of them for each of the 6 DDS image files that I've created to make up my multi-screen image. So almost finished, just need to pop these DDS images into the 2 folders. First of all, the sprites folder, which is a subfolder of textures. And then the other subfolder is the models folder, which is just there. Okay, so that's in there. So now we can go into Space Engineers and just click on the screen in the control panel and we can load them up out of the list. Now, because they're on the list and because they're in the config file, if I change the images and put them into that folder, then these images will change. Okay, so you don't need to change the configuration where you're just using the same file names. So essentially it'll just update whenever I put a new version in the sprite, and which is what I do with that TV screen downstairs. I've just got the images called TV1, TV2, TV3 and TV4. So I just save images under those file names and put them in the folders, and then next time I load up it's already on the screen and they're already set to rotate and that sort of thing. So yeah, but the map, yep, happy with the start on that. Certainly need a few more images to plug some of the gaps, but I'll work through that over time. But yeah, so I did sort of struggle to figure out how to do all this sort of stuff, so I thought it might be useful to share it. So hopefully you did get some benefit out of that, and let me know if it's something you want more of or something you want less of, listening to my dull monotone voice that's probably teaching you something you already know. But anyway, let me know in the comments either way. Alright, so back to finding a location for a permanent base. I did visit that lake and I will go back there and have another fly over it and head out that direction. It's just straight in front of me to the north there. Just wanted to take a quick visit up this valley because it did look quite promising. There's a little bit of a lake up here and a sheer cliff behind me with a flat area in front of it, which has potential for some of the things that I sort of want to do. So it's unlikely, but I will mark it up as a potential location and probably do that with a few sites and just have a real think about which one's going to be best. Probably one of the main issues with this particular one is I think it is just a little bit too far south. And the issue with being so close to the polar ice cap is of course the sunlight being quite reduced at this latitude makes for shorter days and longer shadows. Not that that will be such a big problem, as I suspect I'll spend a lot of my time underground in the base. But then again, yeah, it would be good to get outside. I'm back at this lake to have a second decent look. Now, there is actually a lake on the other side as well, so I was thinking that I could potentially join the two with a tunnel, so that could be an interesting sort of concept. Now, it's not really a mountain that I'd be digging into, it's more of a hill, but yeah, that's not necessarily a bad thing. I think it would still be big enough for what I want to do, some of the things. Quite rugged over to my right there, so probably the access is up this valley that I'm pointed down at the moment. I think this does loop round at the end and sort of come out by the green crater, so I should be able to get the beast up here. We'll head over to this lake and have a little bit of a scope out. It's really not looking like a bad location, this one. Quite close to that trading post, relatively speaking, 26k, so that's sort of just a hop, skip and a jump. Got a good couple of lakes here, surrounded by mountains. I think this is really a front runner at the moment. We'll head down to this ice lake and have a bit of a look around there. I can already see there's a few patches of resource, so that's useful. I'll just slow down and hover over this. Yes, I know there's ice here. And iron. That's good. Nice and close, because the entrance would just be sort of there somewhere. I'll mark this up on the GPS, so I'll call it the alpha site. Not that that's necessarily reflective that it will be the one I choose, it's just a coincidence. It was the first one that I visited that ticked enough boxes to put it in the running. I'll just check out the other resources on this ice lake as well, and then we'll head off, sort of head back towards the beast down this valley, because batteries are sort of starting to get a little bit low. We'll have to think about recharging them. So I had a good old peruse of that valley as I was flying through to make sure that it was reasonably accessible for the beast. Quite bumpy and a few ruts here and there, but I think I would be able to pick my way through. Certainly it would be a case of tiptoeing rather than hammer down, that's for sure. But here we are at this lake, and yeah, not a bad little spot. It's got nice mountains behind it, sheer cliff, and this is the sort of location that I wanted. Again, is ticking quite a few of the boxes. It's been a really successful flight this morning. I've found a good couple of locations which are suitable. So I have found my location to put the permanent base. I just haven't decided which one it's going to be. So I'll have a little bit of a scope out of this lake, but my only concern is actually whether I can drive the beast down, because again, it does look a little bit steep just around the edge, but yeah, I should be able to get a ramp down. So I have a bit of a look here, and I'll head back over to the beast. I might just stop at that mountaintop on the way as well. just have a brief stopover at this peak and have a look at the view. It's not actually that high, it looked a bit taller from down below. Never mind, I won't worry too much about a GPS marker for this one, or naming it for that matter. But yeah, it's looking pretty good through there to get the beast up. It was looking a little lumpy, but nothing I haven't handled already. And yeah, we'll just head back over this hill here back to the beast. So I just come in on my final approach back to the beast. So while we're here, we'll just have a very quick look around at some of the stuff I've done and some of the stuff I'm going to do. Just really tidying up some loose ends and putting the absolute finishing touches on it. I will publish this soon. I guess once we reach our end goal, it'll be complete. Might have been nice to complete it before I started or halfway through, but no, it'll be completed at the end. I'll just give the flyer a quick charge and get out again before it gets dark or the weather turns. So having a quick look at some stuff that I've done, trying not to skewer myself on the antenna, so we'll start with that. Move that down off the top of the piston. I've also moved the beacon off the roof that was sort of hidden up there. The reason for that is my mind is already thinking ahead to digging a tunnel and fitting the beast underground, and taking that antenna off is going to lose me a couple of blocks of height. The other thing is connecting to the new base, or any base. I haven't really got a connection point, so these timers I'm going to have to move because I think I will put an extension arm there. I don't think this buggy one really does the trick. I'll have one coming out the back there. So I did say last time, in hindsight, I would have loved to have put these timers somewhere else, and yeah, that's coming back to bite me because I'm moving them and it's a bit of a headache. So I've got the power supply. Most of them are actually to do with this, making sure that the timers and engines work properly. So they're all set up through here. Before I get started, I will just give this a little bit of a top up. Starting to get a little bit low on energy there. We'll head down to the server room and I'll show you. I've got a hinge to adapt over to the smaller grid timers. So I find that's sort of a better way to do it. Better use of space, because those timers just are so big. Back to our screen, and you can see I've updated it with a few more images and got a bit of a track going and added some icons on, so all just making it look rather pretty. So just reminisce, it's been a bit of a journey really. I mean, that was the whole idea, but yeah, it's been interesting moving over this terrain and developing the beast as I go, and just got one last push and I think we'll be at our new home. But first I'll just sort out the last of those timers and make some room for an attachment point. So I've swapped out most of those timers now. It does take quite a bit of time to do, just figuring out how they interact and relate to other things. But I got them all off this side and got most of them off this side. Still just another couple there that I'll leave till later. I do want to get out flying before it gets dark. This is where I'll plumb in a conveyor port for attaching to external things. We'll just have to think about the plumbing, so that sorter there pulls the ingots, but I need one to sort of bypass it that lets other things through but doesn't pull them. And then I think the whole system will be accessible sort of from everywhere. So enough of that, I'll finish it off later, and for now we will hit the skies before it gets too dark. I'll head out, I think it's west, haven't got my compass on, so further out from where that Charlie location was. the next sort of valley over. As I came back from the pirate base a little while ago, I sort of had a bit of a look up one of those valleys that looked quite promising. And yeah, so hopefully we might find some other options up there, and I can have a little bit of a think about what one suits and make a decision on where our new base is going to be. Well, looky what I found. Another trading post. And it's quite close to a lake that I think is looking like quite a good spot. I'll go and have more of a decent look there in a second. Just a little trading post, this one. I haven't seen one this small before. Anything? No, nothing in there. So what do we got in the store? Just ores and stuff. So, yeah, it's a bit of uranium there, so that might be useful. I don't think I need any at the moment. Contracts. Yeah, nothing there really of significance, but having a trading post so close to a potential base location is quite good. Right, we'll head over and have a look at this lake. I did have a little bit of a look at it as I flew past, and I think it's got some potential. Now, even though I flew over some quite mountainous terrain to get in here, the valley that I'm in at the moment does open up into the rest of the map. So, into the valley sort of area, there's a big lake. Even though I didn't come in that way, there is a big lake to the north of me. I did sort of spot this as a potential valley of interest when I was making a trip back from the pirate base a few days ago. So even though it looks a little bit bumpy up that way, back this way it's a little bit lumpy, but nothing the beast can't handle. Once again, access down to the lake is probably going to be the Achilles heel. It's not looking too bad through here, although it is looking a little rutty. But when I get closer, they do seem to dissolve to some quite smooth ground, so that should be alright. But up here, oh, that's starting to look a bit steep. And there's some ruts just there between that interface between the rock and the dead grass or whatever that is. So that's a negatory. It's all looking pretty steep around there, but over that far side, looking a little bit shallower. We'll go and have a look there. I hope I can get down here, because it's kind of ticking all my boxes. Again, in my own mind, I don't know what I'm looking for, but I'll know when I find it, and I think I found it. Yeah, that's not looking too bad up through there. It's just whether it's got ruts or not. No, they're all smoothing out when I get closer. Yeah, now the beast will get up there, no worries. Alright, and to have that trading post so close is just an absolute extra bonus. Alright, let's go back and have a look on the other side and just make doubly sure, but I think this is it. Yeah, I'm glad there's that ramp there, because this is all far too steep around this edge. But that's what I'm looking for. I do want it kind of inaccessible. Now there's a couple of little valleys up here, or canyons I should say, which again is kind of what I'm looking for. So I would actually sort of chisel out the base of this to the same level as the ice, and that would make my entranceway. I really think I'm sold. I think this is it. I said I would find a location before the end of this episode, and here we are, pretty much bang on the end of the episode, and I found it. Those first few sites were good, but I think that this is the one. That's awesome. I'm wrapped that I found this place now. I have an end to the journey. Alright, okay, so that just leaves me to fly back over to the beast and finish it off so it's complete, because that's certainly something I want to do before I actually arrive at the end goal. That was always the plan, to build along the way so it would be finished when we get here, and I will publish it on the workshop once I reach that point. And yeah, then we need to start thinking about digging a hole in the hill and making a home for ourselves. So that's the end of what's been a really fantastic day. I'm just rapt to find this location. So thanks everybody for watching. I hope you enjoyed it, and we'll catch up with you next time and finish the journey off. Hey, stay safe out there everybody. Have a good one.